Hi folks, this is Karim Rao from IT Visualizer channel. We will continue our lab, the Red Alert lab. This is the video number 23. We have been discussing in the previous video the following. We have been working now for about 6 videos, okay, concerning the securing of Windows 10 based on the recommendations of the Department of Defense and the Defense Information System Agency of the United States. These recommendations are very good recommendation. I urge you all to see it because it discusses different issues concerning Windows 10. Some of them is securing Windows 10 by working with group policy, or with working with doing some steps in real life to secure the Windows 10, or using the registry keys. So it's a lot of recommendations, and they are best practice, and they work very well for securing your environment, especially if your environment is a sensitive environment. Most of these recommendations can be implemented in working environments, not high securely environments, but you need to test this setting because some of them are very secure, so they may affect some applications or some services in your environment. So let's work now with part number 7 of these videos. We have stopped at the last time, or the last recommendation we have stopped in is to enable a group policy to reprocess all of the group policies on the machine, or every Windows 10 machine every now and then, or every interval of time. Why is this? Because if a hacker was able to hack your machine and he altered or manipulated with your local group policy, re-implementing your Active Directory group policy or your domain group policy will change or will neutralize the changing of your local policy done by the hacker. So you need to be very careful to use this option to process your group policy objects even if they have not changed. We all know that a group policy will be implemented if you make a change in it, so this will alter the group policy to be implemented again, okay? But if this is not the case, the group policy will not be applied. So we need to have this option to make the group policy to be reapplied or re-implemented every interval of time. So this can let's say delete the effect or release the effect of altering your local group policy. We all know that we have two types of group policies: one to be implemented on the domain as a whole, and one to be implemented locally to the machine or the Windows 10 machine. So the hacker can alter or can play with the local group policy, but he can't play, or it's not easy to play with the domain group policy. So by this option enabled, we will secure our machine from a hacker playing with its local group policy, because the domain policy will override the local group policy of the machine. So this will help us to avoid something or such a situation. Then we go to the next recommendation, is not to download printer drivers packages over HTTP, okay? So we all know that some of us may have printers in the domain, and you need to set up a printer on a machine, okay? So you need to have the driver. Some drivers are not available maybe in your network, or you don't have it, so you need to go to the website of the provider to get the drivers. Or sometimes you can tell the Windows to go directly to the website of the provider and download the drivers. But you should be very careful you should be careful to secure your connection between, or when you are downloading these drivers, you should secure the connection. So to secure the connection from your PC to the website of the provider that you get the drivers from, you should secure this connection by ensuring that the website of the provider is using HTTPS protocol. This protocol will secure the connection between the client and the server, okay? So we need to enable a group policy to prevent downloading of printer drivers packages over HTTP protocols. So if the provider doesn't have a website that uses HTTPS protocol, the drivers will not be downloaded. Okay, so he's saying here that prevents computer downloading over HTTP because sensitive information could be sent outside. So there is two things. First of all, the securing of the connection for the hacker not to intervene, and for another thing, if you are sending sensitive data, for example, if you need to install a printer or set up a printer on a machine, sometimes the Windows collects some data about the printer or about the machine and send it to the provider so he can choose the best driver for your printer. For example, he can send the operating system. The Windows, for example, send to the vendor the operating system version and some data so he can give you the suitable driver for your printer. Sometimes this data is sensitive, so you need to take care that this data, when sent to a provider, it is highly secured and not hackable. Okay, so this is thing we need to go, and we can do this by two ways: to do it through the registry key, or to do it using a group policy. So first of all, if we need to know that this kind of option is enabled, we can go and check the registry for a key called disable web PNP download and see if this key is there. If it's not there, then this is a finding, and this means that this option is not enabled. So we need to go and check and see. First we tell him run and tell him regedit, so we can open the registry for this PAO or this privilege access workstation and see this registry key to know if this option is enabled or not. So there is always a way to, or there is always two ways to implement or to change your Windows environment. One by using the registry, and the other one is using the group policy. And the group policy actually plays with the registry, but let's say that you can play with the registry directly, or you can play with it through the group policy. So now we need to see here that we don't have this option enabled, so we need to go and apply it or do it through a group policy by enabling the option of turn off downloading of printer drivers over HTTP. So this is one. We need to harden. Okay, we open the group policy for hardening Windows 10, the one that we'll use, or the one that we'll implement on all of our Windows 10 workstations, and then begin applying the group policy. See, we got to administrative templates, and then we go to I think maybe printers, internet communication setting or internet communication management, and then internet communication setting. So we go internet communication management and then internet communication setting. Okay, and then turn off downloading of printer drivers over HTTP. Okay, so this is the one that we need to close, or turn off downloading of printers over HTTP. Okay, this is the one that we need to enable. So this is the one, and then I will show you all another option, very important option. Okay, let's go for a moment here again to see the explanation. So if you can open it and see what does it say. Okay, it say here that Wiser allow the client to download printers over HTTP. Non-inbox drivers need to be downloaded over HTTP. No, this policy does not prevent the client from printing to the printers on the intranet or the internet over HTTP. And this is the one that we will talk about. There is another policy. We need to disable printing using the HTTP protocol. Sometimes you can print to a printer outside your domain or on the internet using the HTTP protocol. We need to disable this. Or you can print to a local printer on your machine, use a local printer in your domain using the HTTP. We need to disable this because the HTTP protocol is not secure. If you need to print something on a printer or on a network printer in your domain, or over the internet, this should be done using HTTPS protocol. Okay, so because it is secure and it's highly encrypted, so it is preventable about hacking. Okay, so for example, if you have a local printer, for example HP printer or something, or a network printer, you can simply, some of the ways to print, you can just type the IP address of the network printer and press enter, and then go to the interface of the printer and upload through the browser a document and print it on the printer using the browser. Okay, so this is not recommended because it will use HTTP. Okay, so we need to use HTTPS. So now we will continue, or we will enable this option, and then the other recommendation, if you go down, but I think this will be not this one, the one after this. Web publishing and online ordering wizards must be prevented from downloading a list of providers. Sometimes when you try to publish something on the internet, or try to order something, okay, sometimes the Windows recommend some providers or some vendors for the thing that you are trying to publish, or for the things that you are trying to order. This could be a security issue. Why? He's saying that some feature may communicate with the vendor, sending system information or downloading data or components for the feature. Sometimes, for example, if you need to, for example, order a printer, sometimes some data may be sent to the vendor to tell him, for example, the system version, or your drive, something like the system version, so he can recommend a best printer for you, for example, or your location, or your country, something like this. Okay, so he's telling of this capability will prevent potentially sensitive data information from being sent outside the enterprise and uncontrolled updates to the system. Okay, the setting prevents Windows from downloading a list of providers for the web publishing and online ordering wizards. Let's see what is web publishing, or Windows web publishing and online order wizards. Okay, Windows XP introduced. Let's see, this was from Windows XP. We can see this here. We can go, for example, let's see this one. Windows XP introduced the web publishing wizard and online printer ordering wizard. Based on the framework, these wizards provide the user with a simple mechanism for publishing content to a website, or for ordering printers made from digital image files. This advantage of this wizard lies in their ability to host HTML content from different providers within their wizard pages, so that the look, procedure, and available user options are fully controlled by the provider and may be altered by them at any time without affecting the client wizard that hosting them. Let's see how does it work. For example, here we can see that this is a way. For example, this was a document, and then we will tell him click, I think, maybe let's see this, in order this experience, for example, for the web processor title publish this folder to web is available from the file and folder tasks. Oh yes, this one. Okay, this is publish this file to the web. I think maybe you can see it from here. Maybe let's see if we can, but I think this is not available anymore here in detail pans, maybe, or navigation pan. I think this is not available anymore. Or let's see if we, for example, go to the documents, maybe, and here we can see not this C publish, but I think this was an XP. But let's see how this is changed to Windows 10. But anyway, so when you click on this one, this is how it works. So for example, whenever you go, your data is there, online storage from Microsoft. So here is publishing or saving your data to or your documents to MS, and here he's suggesting some providers. Okay, so you can save your data to, or publish your data to. So this is sensitive data, okay, or this is something maybe it's a security issue, because some data are sent to these providers, and they will process your data and send some information to you. Okay, so this is something you say that the wizard, it will show you some providers, and for this step to happen, some data are collected from your PC and sent outside the internet, okay, or outside to the internet. So this is something. Then you can this is one option, and then order printers online. This is another one. So I think let's see how this is done in Windows 10. I think this is maybe it's not there anymore. So if we can go to Windows 10, let's see if we can see Windows 10. Okay, web publishing and order wizards. So let's see this in images maybe. So okay, all of these, I think it was let's see here if this is already something here. Maybe it's in Windows XP, but I don't know if this is in Windows 10 or not. Okay, so let's see, turn off. Let's see this one, web publishing and order by Windows XP. How can I find? Okay, using the FTP. Okay, anyway, so maybe there is something in the Windows 10 by this option, but as you have seen all how this appears, something appears like two options. One, to upload your or publish here means it uploads some of your data to some providers that have online storage like MSN and other things. So for this list to appear, that means that some data from your PC is sent outside, some data maybe about the operating system or about a recommendation. So this should be stopped. Okay, so I think this was in it was in Windows 10, sorry, in Windows XP. So I think it's not available anymore. Anyway, we need to disable this option. Okay, so it will not download, because he is telling me that maybe some sensitive information to be sent outside enterprise. Okay, so we need to disable this option, turn off internet download for web publishing and online ordering wizards. Okay, so we need to close this option, and we need to make sure if it's activated or not from the registry. So we need to go and see this from this key, current version, and policies, and then Explorer, and then to see no, or to see this key, no web services, and the value is 1. So if it's not there, we need to enable it, to turn off internet download for web publishing from the same location. So here we download, turn off internet download for web publishing and online servicing. So wait a moment, guys. So let's continue, guys. Here we will need to close this option. Okay, and then we will go to the other recommendation, not to print. This is the one that I was talking about from a couple of seconds, not to print over HTTP. Okay, so this is also very important, because the connection between the client and the printer is not secured, because it is over HTTP. So we need to do this, because this will disable printing on printers over the internet, or to print on printers locally in the domain, unless it's using a secure protocol, something like HTTPS maybe, or SMB, some versions like SMB version 2 or version 3. Okay, because SMB version 1 is not compatible, it's not secure. So turn off printing over HTTP. We need to enable this option, and also we need to check if this in the okay, and this is in the registry. Anyway, the other recommendation is to use authentication using certifications, or system must at least attempt device authentication using certificates. We all know that if we need to authenticate a user over the domain, the first thing or the first step, the user goes to the machine and then put the username and the password, and then the Kerberos protocol go to the domain controller to verify that this username and password are correct, and then he, after that, if his username and password are correct, he will be permitted to log into the machine. Okay, this is the normal authentication process. Sometimes you can be authenticated not by username or password, something by a certificate, something like you know, when you, for example, go to a football match, okay, and you need to enter the stadium, you will not be able to enter the stadium unless there is a ticket. Okay, this ticket is printed and given to you as a user, so you can be, or it's, so this ticket is your verification or your method of verification to the security in the stadium, okay, or in the stadium, so you can enter the football match. Okay, so this is called, or this is the same way as certificates. It is a way to authenticate or to tell the domain that you are a member of it by a certification. This certification is given you by a certificate server. Okay, so all of for example, all of the computers in the domain will be issued certifications. These certifications are the way that, or this is the way that they will be authenticated to the domain, or users will be given certifications. These are the way to authenticate themselves to the domain or to access the PC. Okay, so this could be done, and a username and password could be done, but here is saying that at least if you have a certification or you have a method of issuing certificates and giving them to the user, you should give the system the opportunity to use them. Okay, so for example, if he doesn't find certifications or you don't have certifications in your domain, he will use the normal username and password. So he's saying here that using certificates to authenticate devices to the domain provides increased security over passwords. By default, systems will attempt to authenticate using certificates. Okay, so this is one, and be very careful when you enable this option. We need to have it in a certain way, and if you enable it, we need to be very careful because sometimes it will make huge problems, so you need to test it before implementing it on a wide range of network or on your network. Okay, so here first he will attempt to use certificates, and if he doesn't find certificates, he will fall back to the password or the normal method of authentication. If the domain controller does not support certifications for devices, this may also configure to use certificates for device authentication. Okay, so let's see first if this option is used or not. Okay, so here let's see the default behavior for support device authentication is automatic, so we will give two options for the machine to authenticate or the user to authenticate, using a username or a password, or to use a certificate. But we need to have a certificate server so we can do this. Okay, so we can also check if this option is implemented or not from this registry key. Okay, so you can go and tell him and see if this value is there or not. Okay, and if it's not there, we can go and implement it using a group policy. So let's see how this can be done. So we can go, first of all, need to check the registry key. Okay, I think maybe here. Okay, so here we can see that it's not there, so it's not implemented. So we need to implement this policy, but to make it okay to use a certificate if it is available for the device or for the user. Okay, so the user should have a certificate, or the device itself should have a certificate. Okay, so we can see that we need to support the device authentication, use a certificate. We can leave the option to not configured or to enabled, and if enabled, we need to tell him device authentication behavior using certificates should be should be available, not forced. Okay, we will see this option now, but wait for a moment, guys. So let's continue, guys. Now we need to enable option to support authentication for users or devices using certificates if they are available. Okay, so this is something we need to enable, and he's saying that authentication using certificates is more secure than the normal username and password. So we need to do this. Need to support authentication, but take care, we need to enable a certain option. Take care, if you leave it not configured, or if you enable it, you need to use a certain option. Okay, we need to take care, and we will read the explanation. It's saying something we need to take care. So here we leave it as not configured or enabled, but if we enable it, we need to do something, or we need to enable a certain option. Here you can see that automatic, so we need to leave it automatic, because you tell him force, he will only use certifications as the way of authentication. Here we can see that this policy allows you to set up support for Kerberos, the protocol responsible for authentication, to attempt authentication using the certificate for the device to the domain. If you enable this policy, the device credentials will be selected based on the following. Automatic device will attempt to authenticate using its certificate, so it will use the certificate instead of the username and password. If the DC or the domain controller does not support computer account authentication, so it will authenticate the device, not the user, using certificate, then authentication with password will be attempted. So this is the option that we need to do it, or to choose it. Force will always authenticate using its certifications. If a DC cannot be found which support computer account authentication using certificate, then authentication will fail. So if you force using certifications and no certification is available, so the computer will not be able to go to the domain or to enter the domain. Take care of this group policy. You need to implement it very carefully. Okay, so because it will do some problems in your domain. Okay, so here it is, authentication using, here we can see it authenticates the computer accounts, not the users. Okay, so it is basically for authentication of the devices, not the users. So it is a way, I think the user will be authenticated using a username and password, and the device will be authenticated using a certificate if available. If it's not available, then he will have I think the computer accounts has also a username and password for them. Okay, so we need to take care that this way of authentication, we should use it if it is available. Okay, if it's not available, then we can retrieve back to username and password. Okay, so now we will go and continue the other recommendation. Here there is something called the network selection user interface must not be displayed on the login screen. We all know that when we go to the, or when you log in on the Windows for the first time, let me show you all if I can do this. Wait for a moment. If I make lock, just one moment guys, if we tell him lock, okay, here you can see that I can choose, okay, here the network. So here he is trying to, or he's saying that we need to disable this kind of, or not to let the user choose his network. Okay, so he can choose between networks. We need to disable this when he is on the login screen. Okay, so this is not correct. We need to tell the user, or to make the user not be able to do this. Okay, so this is why we tell him the network selection user interface must not be displayed on the login screen. So we need to do this also as a kind of security, not to give the user, because he is saying here, you can see that enabling interaction with network selection, the one that I showed you from a couple of seconds, allow the user to change connections to available networks before signing into Windows. So he can, before signing into Windows, change the network completely, or to connect to another network. So maybe the other network he can log in safely, or he can log in with another alternative user. So here we are forcing the user not to change the network and to be forced to enter a certain network. Okay, so we need to also check this from the registry, and if it's not there we need to do it using a group policy. Okay, so I think maybe it's disabled, no, it's displayed. So we can go and check this. So I think maybe we can display it a little bit more. So we can go there and do not display network UI. So we can do this using a group policy, or we can do it using using a registry. Okay, so we can first go and check the registry to see if this option is enabled already. If it's not enabled, then we need to enable it using a group policy, or directly by entering or creating a registry key with the value that the PDF or the recommendation says to us. Do not display network UI. So we can go to the location and create a key and put the value to enable this option. Okay, so disable. Okay, let's see here how we can do this. So we go to administrative template, system login, then do not display network UI to the user. So we'll go there and enable this option. So we can continue. So let's continue. Sorry guys, here I think I am trying to see it from the group policy. Okay, I think it's in administrative template, system, then login. So system and then login, down, I think down, maybe, yes, it's down, login again, and then we need to disable or do not display network UI. Okay, selection. Okay, so this is the one. And then we need to, the other recommendation, local users on domain or on domain joined computer must not be enumerated or listed. Okay, what we mean by this, when you log into a machine, okay, on the domain or locally on the machine, sometimes the last user is displayed when you enter the, for example, if I have logged in with a username, okay, and then for example I shut down the machine, okay, and then open it back and load the system, the last user logged into the machine, his username is displayed. Okay, so this is called enumeration. We need to disable this kind of option, because for example if this is done, only thing or the only thing need to be done is to put the password. The username is already typed for you, okay, or it is already there. So this is a problem. Maybe some users will try to lock other users accounts. So for example, if I am Kareem and I have left, or my username is displayed in the username field when the computer is opened and the system is loaded, maybe Ahmed need to disable my account, so he will put the password certain times or make a couple of attempts until my account is locked. So this is a critical thing to be done. So we need to disable the enumeration of the users on the domain or locally on the machine. So every time the user needs to type his username and password to log into the machine. So we need to do this, especially on the local users. Okay, so we need to do this, and we need to enable this kind of option, okay, from the group policy, and to see also if this registry key can help us. So you can do it using a registry key or using a group policy. So enumerated, mean by enumerated that you not be able to list the users. So you need to see this registry key. If the system, if this option is enabled, we will see enumerate local users and the value is 0. 0 means disabled. Okay, so we can see this and it's not there. So we need to do not enumerate or enumerate locals. He will disable because this will enumerate. So we need to disable. So here we can see that he's saying to us that policy allows local users to be enumerated on domain joined computer. If you enable this policy, login UI or user interface will enumerate all local users on domain joined computer. So you can choose or the users is available, username is available, you can choose any username, okay, and choose it, and then you type the password for it. So this is not correct. We need the user to type his username and password, and his username should not be saved on the machine. Okay, so we will do this by disabling this option. Okay, so we can do this, or this could be done, and then we can do this from this policy. We disable it. Okay, this is one, and then we need to continue. So this is the one, because preventing enumeration of users limits this information to authorized personnel. Okay, so this is enumeration. I think the means of enumeration, if you go there, if you go to the website, so let's see here, what is enumeration. Enumeration means, okay, the action of establishing number of something, or enumeration is a complete order listing of all items. Okay, so here you can list the users. This is meant by enumeration. Listing here means in Arabic, because for my Arabic viewers it's called ta'dad or ad. Okay, so anyway, so this is not an option. Let me show, or okay, this, okay, 30 minutes, we still have time. So we need to disable enumeration of users. Okay, so this is one. We need to so this is only available for authorized personnel. Okay, so this could be done. So now we can go and continue with the documentations. So we can go or continue with the recommendations. Here, user must be prompt for a password on resume from sleep. For example, sometimes you know that you can put your laptop in sleep mode. What we mean by sleep mode, the PC is shut down, okay, partially, okay, but it can be resumed from shutdown. We mean by pressing a key. It's something like called sleep mode. Sleep mode means that the machine is partially shut down, or it is not partially shut down, it is completely shut down. Let's say no, it's partially shut down. I mean the system is closed and the PC is shut down, but you can make it resume or open it from shutdown by clicking a certain key. Okay, it will get you to the operating system directly. We all know the sleep mode. So when you enter the PC from sleep mode or the laptop from sleep mode, you need to type a password. So you cannot enter the system automatically or your PC automatically. You need to provide your username and password. This is also one of the good options, because authentication must be always required when accessing a system. This setting ensures that the user is prompted for a password on resume from sleep and on battery. By the way, we have two things. If you have a laptop, you have two options: to resume sleep from battery if the laptop is on battery, or it is on plug or on current or on your charger. Okay, so we need to do both options, on battery and on charge, or when it is plugged in power. Okay, so we need to do this. This is also one of the things we need to see. We can do this using a group policy, as I said before, or from let's see, or from the group policy. Okay, you can do this from the registry key or from the group policy. So let's continue, guys. Here we need to continue working. This we need to check if it's in the registry or this option is enabled, but I think it's not there. So we need to go and enable this power setting. Okay, to when resume from sleep, you need to provide a password. Okay, so we need to go and enable this kind of policy. Okay, to require a password when computer wakes on battery, and there is another one for the charger, or when it is plugged into electricity. Okay, so, or it's working electricity, not battery. Okay, so this to ensure that the user is prompted for a password. Okay, so let's go and enable this option. So let's continue. Here we go, I think, in the power management, and then power setting, maybe, I think sleep setting. Okay, and then require a password on plug-in. This is when it is plugged in electricity, and there is another one when on battery. Okay, so you need to have both, or to activate both options, when on battery and when plugged in electricity. Okay, so this should be done, enable. And the other, or the next recommendation, is to do it on electricity, the same, to provide the password from sleep when on battery or when plugged in. Plugged in means plugged in electricity. Okay, electricity socket, or electricity socket, I mean. Okay, so we can do this also from here. And then let's continue working with the recommendations. So we can do this also, and then continue. Here, solidated or socialized or solidated remote assistant must not be allowed. Sometimes there is an option in Windows to allow remote assistant. I think this is the one that he's talking about. If we right click this one, okay, I think, and properties, okay, I think he's talking about this option. Let's see, he's talking about this one. Here it's saying that remote assistant, allow remote assistant on this computer. I think, let's see here what he mean by this. These are, I think he is talking about this one. Okay, allow this computer to be controlled remotely. This is the remote assistant. A user can send an invitation or something to help other ones, or to get help from outside remotely. This, I think, should be closed. Maybe you can open remote connections to this computer internally from the network, but not from outside. So let's see if he's talking about this option. So let's go and see if you're talking about this. He's saying that a remote assistant allow users to view or take control of the local session of a user. Socialized or solidated assistant is help that is specifically requested by the local user. This may allow unauthorized parties access to resources on the computer. So I think this should be disabled. Let's see the explanation for this group policy. Let's see what he's talking about. But I think he's talking about the remote assistant. Okay, I think it's very clear. Remote assistant, there is a way that the normal user, a standard user, can send a remote invitation for a user outside the domain to control a machine and troubleshoot a problem. Okay, I think this is the one. So let's go and see. Configure solidated or socialized. Let's see what this option is talking. This option is talking about remote assistance. Yes, it is remote assistant. So here we can see that it's telling for us, if you enable this setting, user on this computer can use email or file transfer to ask someone for help. Also, user can use instant messaging programs to allow connections to this computer. So, and you can configure additional remote assistant settings. So I think this should be disabled. The only way the user can ask for assistant is to ask the IT, and he will use the remote desktop connection, not to use the remote assistant. So I think we need to disable this kind of setting. Okay, so here is saying that if you enable it or disable it, the user can turn or turn off. If you do not configure, no, this is disabled. Users on this computer cannot use email or file transfer to ask someone for help. Also, users cannot use instant messaging, so this is more secure. So we will disable this kind of group policy, sorry, this kind of option. So we need to disable it. Okay, I think this is related to the remote assistant option I was talking about. So we need to disable this kind of option. So I think we can go and continue. And then unauthenticated RPC clients must be restricted from connecting to the RPC server. Here I think it's RPC, it is remote protocol, I think, or RPC, something related to remote connections. He's saying that unauthenticated clients, here mean by authenticated that if they doesn't have a valid username and the password in the domain, should not be allowed to connect to RPC server. I think maybe RPC server here means any applications or any devices that use RPC protocol. Let's see the explanation also of this group policy. So configuring RPC to restrict unauthenticated clients from connecting to the RPC server will prevent anonymous connections. Let's see what is the explanation of this group policies? You go to the remote. First of all, we can check it from the registry if it's there or not, and I think it's not there. We need to go to the group policy and see the explanation of this group policy, so we can go and work with it. Go to the remote procedure call. Oh, this is the protocol. It's called remote procedure call. Let's see what this group policy explanation tells us. Okay, so here let's go to the remote procedure call. This is a protocol I think used in remote connections. Okay, let's see restrict unauthenticated RPC clients. Here this controls how the RPC server runtimes handles unauthenticated RPC clients connecting to RPC server. This policy setting impacts all RPC applications. So here maybe some applications, some clients need to connect to some applications remotely using the remote procedure protocol or remote procedure client. I think this is remote procedure client or remote procedure call. Okay, in a domain environment, this policy should be used with caution as it can impact a wide range of functionality, including group policy processing itself. Reverting a change to this group policy setting can require manual intervention on each affected machine. This policy should never be applied to a domain controller. So this is done to a machine, Windows 10 local machine, but not to a domain controller. And you should be very careful, because some applications use, or some clients connect to an application, or some clients connect to server or application servers remotely using the remote procedure call protocol. Okay, so they should be authenticated, or these machines should be authenticated. If they are not authenticated, it will not establish a connection to the application on the server. Okay, so he's saying that you should be very careful. So you need to test it thoroughly if you need to implement this kind of group policy. So we can go further. So here we tell him authenticated. Okay, you need to choose authenticated, enable and authenticated. Okay, so this should be implemented very carefully. Okay, so let's go then to the other setting. The setting to allow Microsoft accounts to be optional for modern style apps must be enabled. What is the modern style apps? If you see, for example, let's show you all something here. This is sorry again guys, this is the normal Windows 10 menu. Okay, we can see here that these applications are called modern style applications. Here there is some applications you can access them from Windows Store. Okay, for example, if I need to access a certain application from Windows Store, the Windows Store should let me access a certain application after I provide my account. Okay, for example, if an application on Windows Store needs you to have an Outlook account or an Hotmail account, you should provide it to access this application. Anyway, I don't prefer the Windows Store to be available on the user's machine or the user's PCs. Okay, so here is saying that this is called, or this kind of applications, or especially this one, it's called, or Windows Store is called modern app. Let me have a look also on this. It's called modern style apps. Let's see, he's saying that you need to allow Microsoft accounts to be optional for modern style apps to access these modern style apps. Let's see what is modern or Windows modern style apps. Windows, well, let's see here, Windows modern style apps. Okay, what are modern apps? Modern apps, you need to know about Windows app. What is Windows modern style apps? The modern style authenticate emphasize beautiful design, authenticate to the platform. What are Windows apps? A program that is written to run under Microsoft operating system, also called as Windows apps, not Windows app, or all 32-bit applications running 32, no, not this one, I think it's there, Windows Modern App, Aka Metro, Full Screen, or Windows Store App. It is a new type of application that runs on Windows 8, RTO, and Windows 10 PCs and tablets. Let's see. Modern App can start in a Windows or in not, and if not full screen, tend to have hamburger menu and the title in the upper left, something like this. Okay, so it's saying these are some applications, or this is what I'm talking about. These are applications like this one. So this is something. These are applications that run in Windows, not in full screen, and it is something like, as you see here, this is called Modern App style. Okay, so here is saying that we need to, just a moment guys, here he say that we need to enable access this kind of applications using Microsoft accounts, to be optional. Actually, you can access this kind of applications without using Microsoft accounts. Anyway, a Microsoft account here is, we are saying that it is a Microsoft account, iBaby, Outlook, or Hotmail. Control of credentials and the system must be maintained within the enterprise. Enabling this setting allows enterprise credentials to be used with modern style apps that support this instead of Microsoft accounts. So you can use your enterprise credentials, I think maybe it's talking about the domain user, to be used with modern style apps that support this instead of Microsoft accounts. Not to use any other accounts other than the domain admin or the domain user accounts, I mean. So let's see, we can control, or we can open this option. So we can enable this option. So he is asking that you need to access the modern style apps using your enterprise credentials, not Microsoft. I prefer actually not have Windows Store or this kind of apps on the machine, and I think the Windows 10 LTSC doesn't have modern apps, or even I am sure Windows 10 LTSC doesn't have Microsoft Store, and I think it doesn't have modern apps as well. So yes, I am sure it doesn't have modern apps. Okay, so this is good, I think. So we need to allow, he is saying that we need to have this option. Let's go to the option of Windows components, and then we need to go to Windows components, app runtime. Okay, app runtime, and then allow account or Microsoft accounts to be optional. Here is saying whether Microsoft accounts are optional for Windows Store that require an account to sign in. This policy only affects Windows Store apps. Okay, so applications that can work or it is within Windows Store. Okay, so this is it. He's saying that if you enable this option, typically require a Microsoft account, sign in with an enterprise account instead. So you can access the Windows Store apps using your enterprise account. I think maybe this is not secure anyway, but this is a recommendation from the Department of Defense. Maybe they have some thing, I don't know if he is recommending to have this kind of option enabled. So let's continue. Then there is another thing called the application compatibility program inventory must be prevented from collecting data and sending it to Microsoft. Okay, sometimes when you need to upgrade a system, for example from Windows Server 2012 for example to Windows Server 2016, you can run a program or a utility from Microsoft called application compatibility program. This collects data on the application on Windows Server 2012 and send them to Microsoft to give you an opinion if these programs will work with Windows Server 2016 or 19. So this is called application compatibility program. So he's sending data about your application and your services working on the Windows Server 2012 and asking Microsoft if they will work on Windows Server 2016 if you need to upgrade. So this kind of data is sensitive. Okay, so he's saying here that we should disable this kind of data to be sent. Actually, you can send them to Microsoft by email or something. You don't need to have an automatic or program to automatically send the data. You can specify the data and send them to Microsoft by email, and to be secure, not to use programs in this kind of process. Okay, so he's saying that this setting will prevent collecting data and sending it outside to Microsoft. So this is also one of the things we need to disable, this kind of option. So this is actually one of the things. If you are in a secure environment, you could have this something as a security point you need to consider. So you need to see and continue working. So we can see those also if this option is enabled from the registry, and if it's not enabled, we need to enable it from the group policy. So we can go and continue. Okay, go Windows Components, Application Compatibility, turn off Inventory Collector. So this will disable collecting data concerning your applications and your environment and send them to Microsoft if you use the Application Compatibility program. Okay, so this is one, we need to disable it. And then one of the most important group policies that we should consider it is to disable autoplay. We all know the autoplay option. It is something like when you insert a DVD that is a movie, for example, the movie, once you insert the DVD, it will automatically be played and displayed in your on your PC. And some programs also, as soon as you insert the DVD of the program or the DVD of the software, it launches automatically. So this is called autoplay. We need to disable this kind of options because some programs may be infected and some applications may be a malware. So we need to disable autoplay. We will run the program by ourselves as soon as we scan it and see if it is secure or not, or it doesn't have any kind of malware. And this should be, autoplay should be turned off for non-volume devices. What we mean by non-volume devices? Any kind of device inserted or plugged to a machine, something for example like camera. So when you insert the camera, this camera calls something called media transfer protocol. So the camera, if you insert it, it will appear on your device, or it will autoplay and display, I think, to autoplay, and it will begin working with your images or photos automatically. So this is should be disabled. So you need to disable non-volume devices, something like a camera, which uses a protocol called media transfer protocol. Disable this kind of devices to autoplay or to begin working automatically without our intervention or without our permission, because sometimes this camera could contain a virus. Anyway, so we need to do this. We need to autoplay. So I think we also, not only for non-volume devices or for devices like cameras, but to disable it as a whole. We need to disable autoplay for USBs, to disable autoplay for DVDs, to disable autoplay as a whole. We will see all this when we come to this group policy. We will see that there is a lot of things. One of them is to disable autoplay for USBs and DVDs. Another one is to disable autoplay as a whole for all of your devices and your hard disk as well, your local hard disk. So this we can check it from the registry. And then let me have a look first where we are standing here. It's okay, 1 hour. Okay, I will take about 2 or 3 and then we can stop to continue at a second part, or part number 8. Anyway, so this is the registry key. We need to see if we have this kind of option enabled on our domain, on our PCs. So I think it's not there. Microsoft, I think yes, we need to check it from the registry. or if it's not there, we can enable it using a group policy. So let's go and see. I think here it's Windows. A very simple way to know a machine have an option enabled or not is from the registry. Okay, so if you go to Explorer, we will see that autorun is not there, so its autorun is enabled. So we need to disallow autoplay for non-volume devices. So we need to go this, it's not there, so it's not activated. So we need to go to the group policy and enable this kind of option. So we'll go and autoplay devices or autoplay policies, and then disallow autoplay for non-volume devices such as cameras. Okay, these are called non-volume devices. Okay, so let's go to disallow. Here you can see that he's saying that MTP devices, something like cameras or phones. So once you insert a phone or a camera using a USB cable to the PC, they will automatically play or automatically start playing some programs or editing or displaying your images or something. So we need to disable this for cameras and phones, okay, using the media transfer protocol. Something like cameras, he's specifying cameras and phones. Okay, so this is very good, not because maybe the phone or camera has a virus. We need to enable this, and the autorun behavior must be configured to prevent autorun commands. So here we need to disable the autorun as a whole. Okay, autorun commands to execute may introduce something. So here we need to disable autorun. We don't need any program on the Windows or any program on any device to use the autorun option. We will run the program by ourselves after investigating if the device or the program is legal or it doesn't contain any viruses. So here we will enable and tell him do not execute any autorun commands. Okay, so this may be another thing to secure our environment. And then we need to autoplay disable for all drivers. Okay, so here we can see that he will say to us that one of the things also for autoplay, if you insert a music DVD, it will begin playing the music automatically. He is saying that autoplay begins reading from the driver as soon as you insert the media. The media here, it is maybe a DVD or a USB or something. As a result, the setup file of programs or music on audio media may start. By default, autoplay is disabled on removable devices. So this are disabled on USB and DVD, and also floppy disk, which is not used anymore. But not so USB and DVD are USB and floppy disk, but not for CD-ROM and network drivers. If you have an ISO image or something from a DVD or an image from a DVD, so it's not enabled on DVD or network drivers. So you should disable autorun or autoplay on any devices and on all of our hard disks. So we need to do this. Okay, we'll go to the group policy and enable this kind of option. So we'll go there and disable this. So we can go and enable it for all drivers. So here we will tell him turn autoplay and for all drivers. So no one, you can specify it for DVD and network drivers, but we will disable it for all. Here we can see one of the options is to enhance anti-spoofing for face recognition must be enabled on Windows 10. So you can authenticate a user to access a domain using a facial recognition program. So it recognizes your face, and if it is your face, it will allow you to access the domain or access the PC. Or you can have a fingerprint. This is called biometric recognition, something like your thumb, I think something related to your something like digital, something called biometric things. Something you have your fingerprint. Okay, so you will be authenticated using your face recognition or fingerprint. Okay, so this we need to enable an option called anti-spoofing to secure this kind of methods to authenticate yourself. So enable enhanced anti-spoofing will secure your face recognition authentication way, and the same I think for maybe the fingerprint. Anyway, so we will enable this. So we can go and enable this kind of option. I think maybe we'll stop at this group policy, but let's go. First of all, we need to take care. This is not available in Windows 10 LTSC, I think. Maybe configure enhance spoofing. So first we need to check if it is in the registry. So we need to see if it is enabled or not. So let's continue and see. No, it's not enabled, so we need to enable it from the group policy. So we need to check the to check this option, it's enabled or not. So anti-spoofing or anti-spooling, biometric, facial recognition, configure enhanced anti-spoofing. Okay, so here we can see that it's saying that requires all users on managed devices to use enhanced anti-spoofing for Windows Hello Face authentication. So this is a way to authenticate yourself to the domain, okay, using your face. Okay, so we need to use this, and let me, after enabling this option, I think we will stop, but let me first see how much time we have been working. So let's continue, see the other or the next recommendation is to disable Microsoft Consumer Experience. This is something also like data collected from Microsoft from your PC and send them to the Microsoft servers to enhance your Windows experience. So for example, it monitors the Windows and all of the problems that happened in it and then send it to Microsoft, so in the upcoming or in future releases of Windows they can prevent or can outcome or can prevent happening other problems. So for example, if this Windows have a problem and it was sent to Microsoft, the future releases of Microsoft will prevent this problem from happening again. So this is called Microsoft Consumer Experience. Okay, this also should have some sensitive data. Okay, maybe it's collecting data about the Windows, the problems, so it maybe contains some sensitive data. So this kind of options should be disabled. Okay, so I will tell you all how we can do this, and then we will close or we will stop at this one. So we will go and disable this kind of application from working. Okay, so here we need to control the execution of this kind of applications because it's sending data. Here we need him to turn off Microsoft Consumer Experience because it will collect data about the Windows performance and the Windows problems and send them to Microsoft to outcome or to prevent future problems from happening in the future releases of Windows. Okay, so we need to check and see if this is in the Windows, sorry, this is in the registry, and then if it's not there we need to enable it using a group policy. And by the way, when I install the Windows on my PC, I have disabled this kind of option. Okay, so we need to go to Cloud Content, so we need to go and close this one and go to Cloud Content and turn off Microsoft Experience. Okay, so this is it, and then we will stop at this one, which called administrator accounts must be enumerated during elevation. So we'll stop at this one. It is minute 29:20, and we will continue working in part 8 of this series, or part 8 of securing Windows 10. Hope this video is informative for you all, and thank you all for viewing. Thank you so much.